I've been a whole lot of things in my life. Ray Rickman. I've been a legislator. I've been head of the Providence Human Relations Commission, sometimes making legislation, sometimes being involved in lawsuits. I have been on the parole board, adjudicating people's lives, and on and on and on. It's fascinating, these roles I've played. When you work for a congressman, you get to go down to Washington, sit in a few hearings, and I have had the wonderful, interesting, fascinating opportunity to do that. So, of course, I'm glued to the TV station watching the hearings for Brett Kavanaugh to be elevated from district federal court to the United States Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. A court that often makes decisions that affects our lives. Black people in particular have had some decisions that have affected our lives. Dred Scott in the 1880s saying that we had no rights. One of the people say the worst decision ever made by the Supreme Court. And then in the 1950s, 1954, Brown versus Board of Education, basically opening the floodgates, saying that black people had a right to education, integrated education, high school. And then Thurgood Marshall and others leading the effort in the late 40s, the 50s, into the 60s to integrate colleges and the like. So the Supreme Court has more effect on people's lives than they think. Brett Kavanaugh will go to the court. He's an arch conservative. He will turn back a bunch of decisions. It won't be Plessy versus Ferguson, the 1880s case saying blacks have no rights. But I believe he will help curtail voting rights for everybody, for young people, for old people who have ID problems, for black people, for immigrants, if he has his way, 20% of Americans will lose their right to vote. That's my guess. I hope I'm wrong. He's going to affect women's right to choice, to have an abortion or not have an abortion. It's going to be the 1950s again if he has his way, I think. Now, why do I think this? Because President Trump promised only to appoint a person to the court that would reverse Roe versus Wade. He said that in his campaign. And conservatives are counting on him to do that. And I don't know why. Their daughters are going to get in trouble just like everybody else's daughter when they get pregnant. They're going to have illegal abortions in Canada or in Europe. And rich people can do that. That's what they did before. So their daughters won't be in as much trouble as some child in the public housing project in Providence. I am prayerful that Brett Kavanaugh will not be appointed to the court, not because he's conservative and going to make all kinds of rulings for the next 20 or 30 years that I don't like, but because he's a liar, because he's deceitful, because these are the worst hearings that I have watched in years. And you can tell he's a manipulator. You can tell. And now we come to, did he assault and try to rape a young woman when he was in high school? Did he? Nobody makes that kind of accusation without a reason. And the reason in 92% of all such accusations is that it's true. Now remember, I've been involved in these issues, sexual harassment prevention training and the like, for more than 30 years. It rings true in my ears what Dr. Ford is saying. And I think it's going to ring true to the Senate, to the Judiciary Committee, to those Republicans on that body, men, all men. And I hope that it will affect their vote, Collins of Maine and a few others, and will not have this deceitful man on the court. Let's get a better conservative.